Hey there, I'm Park Howell with the Business of Story, and I want to share with you a fortuitous accident that I had earlier this week that you'll benefit from, actually. As you may know, if you've been listening to the Business of Story podcast, we have upped our production to 2 shows a week now because we have been interviewing thought leaders from around the world on how COVID is impacting them personally, how they're getting through it with their companies, and how they are helping their clients navigate this madness that we're all experiencing. Well, earlier in the week, I got a chance to interview two of the top minds in agency management and agency growth. That is Drew McLellan of the Agency Management Institute and Michael Gass of Fuel Lines Business Development. Two guys that I really admire for the work they have done over the years in helping ad agencies and PR firms and design firms grow and build their businesses. Well, so I got them into the studio a la Zoom. And I don't typically record video, I just do audio with it. But in this case, we wanted to get the three of us in the same virtual room, if you will, and recorded it. And the session was so powerful that I decided, instead of waiting to release the show in about 10 days to 2 weeks, that I would share with you the conversation we had. So you get to sit in. And that's why, by the way, I probably look a little bit like Freddy Krueger in this. I had no lighting. I was not intending to share this video. But their content is just so great, it's so timely, and it's information I think you can use right now. So I'm going to share this with you, and then if you want, tune into the show in a couple weeks and you can hear them again in your earbuds. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I mean, this is a real treat for me. Two of the absolute top minds in the ad agency world and biz development and growing agencies and selling agencies here. I appreciate you joining our series here, The Business of Story. We've been producing now 2 shows a week, primarily around COVID and what's been happening, and talking to experts all around the world of what they're doing personally to get through it and what they're seeing, that might be on the horizon. So appreciate you guys being here. Drew, let's start with you. The work that you're doing, you are handling lots of different agencies, through your organization and helping them, I guess, navigate this and what the future might hold. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, we serve about 250 agencies in a variety of ways, and we certainly have had interaction with a lot of them in the last 6 weeks or so. And I think what we're seeing, first of all, is that most agencies, if they had been running their business prior to COVID based on agency math and really paying attention to how they're spending their AGI and all of that, they're actually doing just fine. So, I've got some agencies that have lost, like a lot of the media buying and planning shops, as you might imagine, have been hit pretty tough. Some of them have watched 50, 60% of their AGI walk out the door, but they were watching their numbers. They made big decisions, hard decisions very quickly, and they're holding their own. But most agencies probably have lost maybe 10, 15% of their AGI. And every day I hear from an agency that landed a new client, landed a new project. So it's not all doom and gloom, despite what the media wants us to think.
Well, that's good to hear. That's encouraging. Michael, out there in the new biz dev world, what are you seeing with some of your clients?
A lot. Those that are kind of afraid and concerned about their positioning and reevaluating that at this time. I was just on the phone with an agency in Milwaukee that focuses in on the mortgage industry, and they wanted to jump ship and go after manufacturing. And so I talked them off the cliff. And I've had a number that have just really questioned, and just trying to calm those fears. I feel more like a therapist than a business development guy. And I've, been on the phone quite a bit. I'll be talking to the Market One agency, I think, on Thursday, and one of the larger agencies in London. And then I've got an afternoon call with an agency in Tulsa. And this has probably been the busiest month I've had in a long time. It's just incredible.
And what is the advice that you're giving them? What, I mean, are you hearing it being very consistent of agencies thinking that, oh, I've got to pivot now, or I don't have a viable market with the things that's changed, so therefore I've got to be doing something
Yeah, I
else?
think a lot of times, I mean, agencies in regards to positioning, they're always second guessing. And, most agencies look and sound just alike. And when you can get them on board um, to really develop a positioning of expertise to a very specific target group is always great. In times like these, they just need reassurance because, there's so many industries that are impacted by this. And, it's a time of preparation. It's a time of introspection. There's a lot of things that they haven't been consistent with in regards to business development. Now's a good time to kind of shore up their program and get things in tune because, we will come back. And, but, to go after you've gained somewhat of a positioning and to change that up now is just really, really almost suicidal. To think that you're going to gain that in a short period of time and that would be the quickest way to any other business or to go broader, which is always a problem when agencies try to be everything to everybody and then they don't have an appeal to anybody.
And that's kind of natural, isn't it? I mean, Drew, do you see that with the groups that you consult with, where I know that feeling when I ran my agency of, wow, things have kind of fallen apart around here. If I am so focused right now, I'm not sure that I can keep that income coming in. So it's the natural reaction to want to go broader, thinking that I'm going to have a bigger chance of landing more business. Are you seeing that, Drew? And what advice are you giving your folks?
Yeah, it's a very commonly shared fallacy that to go a mile wide and an inch deep is the right way to go because there are more clients in that mile. But there are also a whole lot more agencies that look and sound just like you. And so yes, there are more fish in the pond, but there's a lot more people putting their rod in the water as well. So, like Michael, I agree. And that was really the point of the book that I just wrote, Sell with Authority is thank you, Michael, for holding that up. It is
Dinner.
it is all about being an expert and being a subject matter expert. And what I've been saying to agencies is to change your positioning and where you have subject matter expertise for the once every decade recession. So take out the pandemic part of this, take out the health part of this. This is our annual decade recession that we have every 10 years or so. But for 9 years, you have been going to the bank because of your position of authority. So why in the world would you abandon it now? Because we're going to get through the recession, and actually being in a position of authority will get you through the recession faster because you're a specialist. People are going to be much quicker to go back to Mayo Clinic than they are to their general practitioner for a regular physical. And the same thing is true for agencies, that our clients, the research we do every year, our clients every year tell us, our research participants tell us, they want experts. They want a subject matter expert who understands their industry, who can talk their jargon, and they don't want to have to train us on how their business works. So absolutely, I'm having the same conversation as Michael is, which is just take a deep breath, stay the course. This has served you well for a long time, and it will continue to serve you well. Everybody is going through this bumpy road right now, and you just have to, ride through it.
But Drew, what about the concept that we have never shut down the economy and consumption like we have now? So to say it's just a recession, nobody really knows for sure because none of us have been through this before. Does that amplify the need to stay the course even more, or would people be wise to kind of be, looking on the periphery?
You know what? We'd never been through 9/11 before. And that threw us into a tailspin. When would people fly again? When would people travel again? When would people gather in big groups again? So yes, you're right. Most of us alive have never been through a pandemic before. in the US, certainly in other parts of the world. I've had a lot of conversations with agency owners in Asia, and they're like, oh yeah, this is like SARS. We've already done this. And they're much calmer about this than we are because they have lived through it and they've seen the business come back. So it will come back, but that does not mean we should be silly about managing through the crisis. We still have to manage by the numbers. We still have to stay in the black. We still have to make, I worry for a lot of the agencies that have gotten the Paycheck Protection Program loans that they're going to allow themselves to put off difficult decisions to make sure that that loan is forgivable. And so we still have to run our business wisely through this, whether you're a generalist or a specialist.
Yeah. Michael, are you finding that agencies are concerned about selling in this environment, or are they over that? I'm now having been in it 4 to 5 weeks. What's the sentiment you're hearing out there?
I used this illustration years ago, two buzzards on a deadwood tree overlooking the canyon, and one looked at the other and said, "Patience, nothing. I'm going to go down and kill something." And it's almost that mentality. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to do something. I just can't sit by. And it's almost like they want to go back to the interruptive style tactics that just haven't served well since we entered the first major recession, the Great Recession, and went through such a long down period, which brought about more of an inbound marketing approach to new business. So again, just assuring them of what will work. And I'm totally in agreement with Drew about authority marketing, and that I know that that's primarily what agencies are not agencies, but prospective clients are looking for. They're looking for expertise. I think that average Fortune 500 company has 17 agency relationships. And I think that dispels, the notion of having an agency of record, and that what those clients are really looking for is expertise. And there's a commonality among experts, is that experts write. And so trying to really get them at this time to make sure that they're developing the right kind of content, they've got the right kind of platform, they're reaching prospects in the right way. I mean, I was a cold caller from way back. So I wasn't afraid of cold calling. I did 45, 75 cold calls a day, every day. But when I started my consultancy under great timing, a month before the Great Recession,
Right.
And 3 kids in college, but I understood almost immediately that, there was a paradigm shift in the way we would generate new business. And over 13 years, I've never, ever made a cold call for any new business. And even during this time, I'm not having to do that. And most agencies, if they're positioned correctly, if they're developing content and being consistent with that effort, and, writing the kind of content that is being of help. I've got an agency client in LA right now that his focus is on the entertainment industry, music, movies, and TV networks. And he just happens to have one of the largest integrated programs of reaching the African-American community through barbershops and beauty salons. And so right now he's putting together and just did a wonderful video of focusing in on the beauty and barbershop industry, and how this is the center of Black community, and getting brands to actually help them prepare to come back. So the campaign's called Save a Seat. And it's just outstanding. That's the way you create value, and you really show compassion for those that, you're trying to reach. And so he's already had a great response from that. And I think in the first hour was 155,000 page views for the video. So, we're really encouraged and excited to have somebody like that to create an example for others. And
Well, speaking of, selling with authority, he's got authority in that area. So he knows even before maybe some of his clients what to do to react to this.
yeah, and when I was doing a workshop with him, trying to find his positioning, he was a hairstylist for 17 years and actually owned a hair salon. And then he built this out-of-home network of these beauty shops and barber shops. And, it's something like 450,000 connections. But he's worked with a lot of major brands and some of the major movie studios. And I just put him in contact with Brad Ball, who's the former president of Warner Brothers Pictures. And Brad thought, your positioning is just outstanding. I've never heard of anyone that is so well positioned as you have done with your agency. But it was really smart. He lives the life. He knows it. He really understands that industry. So, like Drew was saying, it's not like they're trying to get up to speed. He knows that industry, just thoroughly, and has become an expert in this arena just very, very quickly because it's such a narrow focus.
Yeah. Drew, operationally, what are you hearing the biggest challenges agencies are having out there trying to navigate through COVID?
Well, most agencies, although it's more common today, but most agencies were not virtual prior to COVID. So, just the logistics of working from home, of trying to stay connected to the team. A lot of agency owners are very concerned about how their team is managing through this. How are they juggling homeschooling and working and just all the craziness that everybody's going through. So, there's a lot of conversation around how do I take good care of my team? Operationally, one of the great things, I think COVID is delivering some really great silver linings for agencies. And one of the great ones is the C-suite that did not have the time of day for us before. We had to talk to the marketing manager or whatever. Well, you know what? Now the CEO wants to talk to the agency owner and they want to strategize with the agency owner. So agencies have been trying to get back to the strategy table for years. And many of them in the last 4 weeks have been sitting at that strategy table with the C-suite of their clients. So operationally, they're making time for that. They're making time to still prospect. And just really a lot of focus right now on just the finances and making sure that the agency has enough money in the coffers to weather this and, has a contingency plan for depending on how long this goes. I think the difference between this and any other sort of typical recession we've gone through is because of the health aspect of it and because everybody and everything shut down, which we have never, in the United States, we have never experienced that before. That uncertainty, that discomfort of not knowing what's around the corner is part of the problem. And so a lot of what agency owners, what I've been talking to them about doing is really being able to identify what they do have certainty around, what do they have control over, and focusing there, because then most agency owners are super type A, and we're all human beings and we're hardwired to survive. And so, as if you were out in the woods trying to survive, you'd be listening for the creaks and the animals around the corners. And that's how we are sort of behaving right now, is we're like sneaking through this crisis going, what's coming around that next corner that might bite me? And so, a lot of it is just about their own mental sort of state of understanding what they can control, that they're going to survive this. They are in charge of how their business functions through this. So it's a lot of basic blocking and tackling right now, just to sort of keep everybody calm enough to serve clients the way we need to serve clients.
Yeah. You guys came out with a survey a couple weeks ago on how it was initially impacting the agency world. Have you had a follow-up to that yet?
No, but we're going to. We did that survey with Orbit Media and Andy Cristodina. And Andy and I just talked the other day, and we're going to go back out probably in another couple weeks with the same questions, just to see if things have changed. But, the results of that survey were actually really heartening. Most agencies had not been as affected as everyone was talking. Most agencies had been kind of kicked in the shins, but most agencies hadn't done layoffs, hadn't had to do salary reductions, and this was before PPP. And many of them had landed new pieces of business, but they were also communicating better as a team. They were tightening up their systems and processes. One thing that a crisis will do is it will shine a spotlight on whatever's broken. So they were really identifying where in their own operations, project management, traffic management, they needed to fix things and putting some attention there. And as Michael said, this is the time to look at your biz dev program. And I do air quotes in that because a lot of agencies don't have a biz dev program, to really look at what your business development efforts are and to really double down on putting together a program and a plan and kicking it off now. Because as Michael said, experts, authorities teach, they either write or they talk, whatever they're more comfortable doing, but they teach and they help. And we can all be helping now. And that's really planting seeds for new business down the road.
Yeah, so a question for both of you here. I hear rumors here in Phoenix about agencies that have had to lay off anywhere from 10 to 40% of their staff. And I don't know if there has been any real research out there yet as to what the true impact is in the industry. But what are you seeing, or is there kind of a common denominator? I think agencies are looking at each other and trying to figure out how they stand up next to that next person, knowing that probably everyone has let some folks go.
I think that initial recession that we had weathered through, one of the reports that I read, it was close to 100,000 that had lost their jobs during that period. And then it was unique, like Hill Holiday and some other agencies like that, they replaced all of those workers over time, but the skill sets were totally different. And so I think through this, we're going to see a lot of new opportunities. Those who are at the forefront and stay fresh and current and kind of see where the wind is blowing and are in a position of leadership. But, you've got I have a lot of friends that didn't make it through that, the Great Recession. And, but they weren't learning, they weren't developing, they were just waiting for things to come back as the way they were. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think it's going to be totally changed. Just like, social media was fueled by digital marketing also fueled by the recession. It just accelerated that growth back then. And I think we'll see a lot of things come out of this that will just really change the lay of the land for our industry.
I also think a lot of the talk of layoffs, I think agencies that predominantly did traditional advertising, bought media, that sort of thing, I think they've been hit much harder than a more nimble, smaller agency that would call themselves more of a marketing agency than an advertising agency. So they were doing a lot of PR work, they were doing a lot of digital work, they were doing a lot of social media work, as Michael said. And honestly, I would say less than 10% of the agencies we serve have laid off a single person. Now, some of them have laid off several people, but most of them have not laid off a single body. Now, we'll see what happens after the PPP funds are done. So what I think most agencies are thinking is, this buys me 8 weeks to try and fill up the coffers, to get some new clients, to stabilize some of our existing clients. Because if I can keep my team, I want to be ready to serve clients if they're going to be back. We'll see what happens then. But I for the most part, I think it's the bigger, larger, traditional advertising agencies that have really had the big layoffs, because their big brand clients said, no, I'm not spending $1 million on media right now. Stop. And so there was no television production. There was no whatever medium they were doing. And so I think they've been impacted more than, an agency of 25 people.
Yeah. Michael, you had mentioned skill sets and how we may be looking at some new skill sets coming out of this too. For both of you, Do you anticipate that? Because, I appreciate both of your vision in this world. You have both been very, very successful and always have had kind of a way of seeing what's coming next. That's why agencies come to you, to help them with that vision as well. What do you think may change skill set wise coming out of this?
I'm still learning. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much we're going to be doing work remotely. I think that's going to impact. My wife and daughter were both working here from home today, and my wife's been home for 2 weeks. I've got 4 family members that have been quarantined through this thing. You've got a brother that survived the coronavirus. A good friend of mine, Mark Schaefer, I know Drew knows well, and he and his wife both went through it. And it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve. I want to stay on top by doing the reading and the writing, because, that's the only thing that kind of keeps us fresh. There's no going back to school for this. We're in school. And, then your audience becomes kind of like your grader, whether or not you got it right or not. But it's going to be interesting. And, through a lot of this, I've kind of been a little more mute. We've had some family issues that we've been concentrating on that have taken some time and attention away, but I've tried to listen more than anything and just absorb, because I really do think it's going to have an impact, and it's going to be interesting to see how things evolve.
I think it's going to evolve in the directions we were already going. So, a lot of agencies in the last couple of years have felt incredible pressure to be able to create the dotted line between their efforts and actual sales. And I think what's happened through COVID is anything that wasn't driving sales got cut. Anything that an agency could prove was putting money in the cash register for their clients, even right now in the thick of it, is not being cut. And in fact, clients are investing more in. So I think the agencies that have, and for many of them, this is through attribution, digital trails, creating loyalty programs where they're getting a bigger share of wallet out of customers. I think it's a lot of the things that agencies and clients were marching towards anyway, where instead of walking in that direction, now we're running in that direction. And so I think the agencies that have been poised and recognizing sort of this trend on the horizon and have been starting to work in that way are well positioned to help their clients as we come out of this.
And I think one of the trends that was developing, social media impacted a lot of advertising. And in the early days of social media, you could hear constantly, TV is dead. And that didn't happen. And now I think we're seeing social media almost emulate the model of broadcast television, because it's almost pay to play. And most agencies that were late getting into social media, they were also late getting into content marketing. And then when they got in around 2015 or so, we've got a deluge of almost generic content that has to be waded through. But even to get rankings in search, it's almost pay to play. Google's making some shifts, and I'm seeing that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, if you want to get any kind of a boost, organic growth is just so much more difficult than it was. And I think that's really going to accelerate in this period, even more so.
What do you think or see are the industries that are going to be the strongest coming out of this, and the agencies in those industries, that are going to be doing better than most, maybe have a little bit more momentum coming out of this?
What's interesting, again, I was chatting with some of the agencies out of Asia, specifically out of Hong Kong. And what they were seeing was, and this will surprise a lot of people, it surprised me, a lot of the brands that were coming back to their agencies, spending a lot of money because they were taking in a lot of money, were luxury products and services and travel. Because after people had been sequestered for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, they wanted to reward themselves when they came out of sort of the quarantine. And so they wanted to get on planes, and they wanted to buy the Gucci purse, and they wanted to treat themselves. And so when they were telling me that, that surprised me, because I thought it would be more meat and potatoes kind of industries. But honestly, a lot of those industries, a lot of manufacturing has not blinked an eye through this. Healthcare is busier than ever. Financial institutions can't beat customers away with a stick with all of the loans and stuff that businesses are trying to get done. So there are also a lot of industries that are sailing through this just fine.
Michael, how about you?
Well, I think there's a number of industries that are going to make it well through this. I think others are going to have difficulty. I think there's going to be some shifts here and there. But again, it's going to be a learning period. And, I just try to consume as much as I can, and then write for clarity. And, we'll see where it goes.
Gentlemen, final thoughts. I'm an ad agency owner sitting across from you trying to figure out what in the world do I do next? What advice do you give me?
Michael, you go first. That way, if you say something brilliant, I can just say, I agree with Michael.
I would make sure that you're in close contact, of course, with clients. I think if there's a commonality among agencies, most suck at new business. But the other commonality is most take care of their clients. And this is a great time to really do that, and do it in a way where, they really know that you care, and that you're concerned about them, their welfare, their families. And, I think this will make us a better people. So.
So one of the things that I've been saying to agency owners is this is definitely a put on your own mask first situation. I am very concerned about the stress level that agency owners are under right now. They're afraid, they're worried about their team. But I think it starts with taking good care of yourself, about giving yourself, when you work at home and you're in the same building 24 hours a day, it's pretty easy to work 24 hours a day. So, taking good care of yourself, giving your brain and your body a rest, taking care of yourself emotionally, spiritually, whatever that means for you. And then I think the next ring of concern is around your own team, making sure that their mental health, that their stability, that they're feeling appreciated, that they feel like they have all the tools they need to keep serving you and the clients. And then I think Michael's right. I think after that, now is the time to make sure, it's easy to be a great partner when everything's going awesome and clients are giving you a lot of money. It's pretty tough to be a great partner when the client has no money, but they're still in crisis and they need somebody to show up and help. So I think our job is to run to the fire and be the savior for them and help them, knowing that that'll come back to us. And then I think the outer ring is absolutely help the industry that you serve, help the people that you know, and be a beacon of good guidance, of calm and rational thought, and plant those seeds by being helpful, because sooner or later, all of those prospects that you're helping are going to need an agency, and you want to be top of mind.
Yeah.
What are you two gentlemen doing to curb that stress? What are you doing to keep yourself fresh and going?
I kept my grandson all day, and so I hadn't been focused on business much today, but my daughter needed a break, and so I've spent the day with him, and most of the day on the floor trying to teach him how to crawl. So I wasn't thinking about anything else.
Well, and you have that beautiful houseboat to escape to as well, Michael.
Yeah, we enjoyed that this past weekend. Got to see our dock neighbors at a distance, but it was good to see everybody and get away and enjoy some good fresh air and sun.
I live vicariously through your Facebook posts, by the way. Thank you for those. And Drew, how about you?
I'm like everybody else. I struggle with it sometimes. It's super easy to answer my phone from 7 in the morning to midnight and to be helpful. And honestly, that's good medicine for me. But I also know I need to shut it off. I'm 15 minutes away from my daughter, so I'm sort of helping her get through nursing school and sort of you know dealing with all the disappointment that comes with not getting to do a graduation or a pinning ceremony. And we are planning a wedding this summer or this fall for her and her fiance. So I have all kinds of important decisions around tuxedos and menus to deal with. So, I think investing in family and friends, I've got some friends who drive by and will stand outside my window and chat for 15 minutes. And so, I'm enjoying the people that matter to me in my world and investing in them and those relationships. And it's all and part of it just is knowing that this will pass. Everything passes, and this too will pass. And we need to take care of each other while we get through it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. I know it's late in your neck of the woods and you've been working all day, even if it's crawling around, especially hard getting that grandson crawling. But I want to thank you so much for being here and taking the time and sharing your wisdom for our listeners so that maybe it puts them a little bit at ease and gives them some ideas of maybe what some next steps are moving forward. I really appreciate your time, guys.
You bet. Thanks for having us.
Always good to see you.
Be
Drew,
safe
you
and
too.
sane out there.
You too.
All righty. Take care.
Take care.